Hey, wait, let me tell you something first. This video can be meditative. Just close your eyes and try visualizing the audio. Let's start. Brother, I got the game you wanted. The teenager said cheerfully next to the young man laying on the bed. In her grasp was a large helmet that looked like a bike helmet, but with more of a sci-fi look. The young man's eyes were closed, seemingly asleep, but the girl continued to speak. Here, let me help you put it on. The girl climbed on the large bed that could fit an entire family of 4, and she lifted his head, putting the helmet she had prepared on his head. Thank you. The young man finally spoke in a hoarse voice after she gently laid his head back down. The girl smiled, tenderly caressing his hair so it wouldn't bother him. Brother, although I will be busy with school this week, next week for sure, I will play with you. Aunt, I will come back later. So until then, have fun. After those words, she went to touch the button on the side of the helmet and waited a few moments before leaving the young man alone. It only took a few seconds after the button was pressed for the young man's body in the real world to fall into a state similar to slumber. He could no longer smell the aroma that was unique to his room or feel the weight of the blanket pressing down on his body. Instead, he could feel himself standing, something he didn't have the opportunity to experience for many years. The world before him was mostly black, like the night sky without stars, and he could see white numbers floating above him, slowly counting down. 10:01. 10 o'clock. 9:59. I can see. I can feel my limbs. I am no longer blind or a cripple. The young man broke down in this darkness, becoming emotional and falling to his knees. He was born with an incurable illness that left him blind at the age of 7 and crippled at the age of 13. He is now 18 years old, and for the past 5 years he would lay in his bed, unable to do anything else besides just laying there. It was a gruesome and unimaginable life that one wouldn't even dare to imagine themselves in. However, for this young man who has spent more than half of his life living in a world void of light, he was able to continue living without giving in to despair because of his caring younger sister, who supported him every day without any complaints. So this is the world's first Vermorp with 100% immersion, huh? When he first heard of the game from his younger sister, he almost couldn't believe it. A game that operates inside the mind of the individual, allowing that person to live in another world without the need to move a single limb. Who would believe that such an incredible and advanced technology could exist? Not to mention that this high-tech technology was announced to be affordable enough for even the most common families to enjoy. It was unimaginable at first, but experiencing it firsthand, the young man can only believe it. 2:19. 2:18. The countdown continued to lower as the young man tries to familiarize himself with the feeling of moving his limbs. Although it was difficult at first, even tripping after every few steps, he gradually became familiarized with his body again. 0:03. 0:02. 0:01. Midnight. Welcome to Cultivation Online. As the system's notice appeared, the black space quickly brightened, becoming a bright white room. And right before the young man, a crack appeared out of thin air, looking like a glass window being cracked. Crack, crack, crack. The crack grew larger and larger, until it was large enough for an adult to fit. Suddenly, the large crack broke apart entirely, revealing the darkness behind it, and a beautiful woman with a graceful and elegant body slowly walked out from within the cracked space, looking like a goddess appearing from another world. The young man could only watch in a daze as the beautiful woman who just came out of the cracked space began looking at him from top to bottom with a seemingly cold expression on her otherworldly face. Dressed in unfamiliar red and golden robes, her figure was supple and graceful. Her facial features are sharp, symmetrical, and peerless. All in all, she looked like an otherworldly goddess. However, despite all of her perfect features, her gaze was anything but friendly. She stared at him with her golden eyes that overflowed with a feeling of dominance, and her aura radiated with a tyrannical power that the young man cannot comprehend. Mortal, place your hand on this. The beauty spoke to him with a cold voice that was fitting for a ruler, and the young man watched as she pulled out a crystal ball from thin air. Okay. Believing that she was an NPC, the young man followed her instructions and placed his hand on the crystal ball without thinking about it too much, and words began appearing inside the crystal ball. Name? Cultivation, none. Legacy, none. Bloodline, none. Physique, heaven refining physique. Physical strength, 34. Mental strength, 275. Soul strength, 1,210. Physical defense, 10. Mental defense, 1,121. The beauty's expression suddenly changed upon seeing the information in the crystal ball. her clear eyes filled with disbelief. Heaven refining physique. Her hands trembled along with the crystal ball in her grasp. Not to mention his soul strength is at the rank of spirit warrior despite being only a mortal with no cultivation. No, that is nothing when compared to his physique. The beauty has never been this shocked before, even to the point of her body trembling. Is something wrong? The young man asked her upon seeing her silence and excited expression. She lifted her head to look at him, thinking to herself, I must rope him into joining my faction before the others find him. What is your name? She asked him with a serious expression. You can call me Yuan. Take this token and keep it with you until we meet next time. The beauty retrieved a jade medallion from thin air and suddenly tossed it to him. I don't have much time left here. Make sure you don't lose the token. I will see you again. Huh? Wait, I have some. Before Yuan can even ask her any questions, the beauty walked back into the cracked hole, disappearing alongside the crack in the air. What an odd NPC. What should I do now? He looked around the empty place. Character evaluation complete. Teleportation will occur in 10 seconds. 002. 001. As the timer reached 0, Yuan's vision suddenly twisted, giving him a slight headache. When he blinked and opened his eyes, he found himself on some kind of stage where many people that wore the same white robe as him were gathered in a spacious area. This is Cultivation Online. His eyes widened when he saw mountains floating in the sky above the clouds and what appeared to be houses built on these floating mountains. Welcome, mortals. I am Elder Song, in charge of making sure that before you all leave this place and adventure this vast world that you will have a goal of what you want to do here set in your mind. An old man in blue robes suddenly greeted everybody with a booming voice, causing everybody there to look above them. He's flying. He is really flying while standing on that sword. The people exclaimed the obvious. Elder Song smiled and said, I will answer your questions later, but first, let me explain to you about this world, the world of cultivation. First and foremost, this is the heavenly continent, and we are currently at Mountain 96. Before you were transported here, everyone should have met a representative from our world that gave you an evaluation. That is your character status. It tells you almost everything about yourself. We will start with the basics. In this world, humans and monsters cultivate their bodies and mind with spirit chi that allows them to obtain supernatural powers. We call people like them cultivators, and the higher the cultivation you reach, the stronger you will be in this world. Legacy and bloodlines are special features that can be obtained later on if you are fortunate enough. As for physique, everyone here should have one. Whether or not it is useless, this will tell you. Elder Song waved his long sleeves and thousands of talisman flew towards the people there. Activate it with your thoughts, said Elder Song. The crowd followed his instruction, and loud exclamations resounded soon afterward. It says that I have an Earth-ranked physique. What does that mean? Elder Song looked at the young man who just spoke and said to him, there is a 1 in 10,000 chances one is born with an Earth-ranked physique. Congratulations. You are what we call talented. Elder, how many ranks of physiques are there? The rank for physiques consists of mortal, earth, heaven, and divine. Elder, what does having a mortal rank physique mean? And what is the difference between the ranks? Elder Song remained silent for a moment, before speaking with a grin. Having a mortal physique means you are only ordinary, but having an earth physique means you are talented. The difference is obvious. You are naturally inferior to those who have a better physique than you. The more talented you are, the easier it will be for you as a cultivator. His words caused many faces to sink, especially those with a mortal physique. Can our physiques be changed? Someone suddenly asked. Physiques can be changed, but the process is a long and painful one, so most people just accept their fate. The people sighed in relief after hearing that their mortal physique can be changed. Does anyone here happen to have a divine rank physique? Elder Song's eyes flickered with expectation, but when nobody replied to his question, the light in his eyes dimmed. The chances of someone having a divine physique is 1 in 100 million, a genius above genius that knows no equal, so it isn't surprising that such a prodigy wouldn't appear amongst a mere 1,000 people. He shook his head inwardly. Elder, I have a heaven-ranked physique. An individual suddenly said out loud, causing everybody there to look at him. Ho! The chances of a heaven physique appearing is 1 in a million. You are a very fortunate one, young genius. What is your name? My name is Shun Ming, replied the handsome young man. Shun Ming? Isn't he the eldest son of Shun Li, the CEO of Royal Entertainment? Some people there recognized the handsome young man whose face looked exactly the same as he does in real life. Did you receive something from the representative who did your evaluation? Elder Song asked him with great interest. Yes, I did. Shin Ming did not hide that fact and told him the truth. I received this pouch from the representative. Oh ho, that is a storage pouch used to store items. There may be a few things in there that could benefit you. However, only cultivators are capable of using it. Additionally, if you can meet the person who gave you that gift again, they might even recruit you as a disciple for their sect. Sect? You mean like guilds? A sect is a place created by one or a group of people for the purpose of nurturing its disciples to become powerful cultivators. A school for cultivators, basically. Elder Song briefly explained. Is that it? Does nobody else have a heaven physique? After a moment of silence, Elder Song shook his head and thought to himself, what a pity that there is only one person out of the thousands here worth investing in. But even then, I don't know who had given him that storage pouch. It'd be rude of me if I were to steal away their target, and I might even offend someone I cannot afford to offend. I have one question for everybody here before I let you leave. What do you desire to achieve in this world? Strength? Status? Wealth? Handsome men? Beautiful women? Tell me, mortals from another world. I want to fly like you. I wish for power. I want to be famous. I want enough money to make a mountain. I want to walk around with beautiful women in both my arms. I want handsome men to pamper me. Elder Song smiled upon hearing the masses' desires. If you want to survive in a world such as this, then you must have power. In this world, the strong rules the weak. Wealth and fame will naturally come if you are strong. People will flock to you if you are strong. Remember my words, young ones. This world looks down on the weak and the inferior, respecting only the strong. Having strength means you have everything. Who do you think have the most power in this world? Elder Song glanced at the people below with a narrowed gaze, sending chills down their spine. Cultivators. We, cultivators, are a symbol of power, wealth, fame, and respect. We are the rule of this world. Cultivators, is that some sort of class? The people wondered. Elder, how do I become a cultivator? Elder Song smiled. It's simple, really. He suddenly waved his sleeves, and thousands of glowing orbs appeared out of the blue and flew towards the people and directly at their forehead, submerging into their brain. I have just given you all the method to cultivate. It is now up to you to decide whether you want to cultivate or remain as a mortal. Elder Song waved his sleeves again, and 4 portals appear not too far away from the group. Each portal represents a continent. In this world, we have 4 great continents, not including this heavenly continent. Once you step inside, it will take you to a place within one of these 4 great continents randomly, but even I will not know exactly where you'll land, so it is up to your fate. You have learned Basic Chi Gathering Technique. Rank, Mortal. Mastery Level 1. Description, absorbs 1 Chi every second. Can only be activated when sitting in the lotus position. Now, Scram. I have spent too much of my precious time dealing with you mortals. You will learn more about this world as you travel. Even if I use the remaining of my longevity, I won't be able to explain to you everything about this world. With another wave of his sleeve, everybody there began flying towards the portal as though they were being pulled towards them. Ah! Shocked cries resounded, and those who entered the portal would soon appear in this vast and unknown world at random. After being thrown into the portal, Yuan felt the slight dizziness again, and before he was aware, he was in the middle of a forest. Where is this? Is there a map I can use? Suddenly, a large map with 4 large continents separated by water appears before him. Eastern continent. That was the only information he could gather from the map. Everything else was blacked out. Yuan tilted his head to look at the bright sky and sighed. I didn't get to ask him about my physique. That old man said that there only exist 4 ranks of physiques: mortal, earth, heaven, and divine. So why does my physique not belong to any one of these 4 ranks? Do I have a special body? In his grasp was a talisman with the following words on it. Heaven Refining Physique. Rank, Celestial. Character status. Yuan activated the system command through his mind as he did with the talisman. Name, Yuan. Cultivation, none. Legacy, none. Bloodline, none. Physique, Heaven Refining Physique. Physical strength, 34. Mental strength, 275. Soul strength, 1,210. Physical defense, 10. Mental defense, 1,121. What do these stats do? He pondered and pondered, but alas, without a guide or someone to teach him, he was clueless. From what the creators of this game said, there will be no guides or manuals, leaving us, the players, to learn about this game for ourselves. There should be a leveling system in these types of games, but where is the experience bar? What is my level? This feels more like reality than playing a game. Yuan opened and closed his hands into a fist. Bang! Suddenly, he punched a nearby tree. It really hurts. Does it hurt because this game is sending pain signals to my brain, making it believe that I am actually hitting a real tree? That's scary no matter how I think about it. What if he got stabbed by a sword? What would that feel like? He didn't want to think about it. Excuse me, the brother over there. A sweet voice suddenly resounded behind Yuan, making him turn his head. Huh. Standing right behind him was a cute little girl in red robes who looked to be around 10 years old, hugging a red ball in one arm and a book in the other. How did she get so close behind me without making a single sound? I didn't even notice her presence. And what is such a young girl doing here, in the middle of nowhere? Perhaps there is a city nearby? Yuan became curious. Are you an NPC or a player? He asked her, who tilted her head sideways with a puzzled expression. NPC? Player? Xiaohua is Xiaohua, replied the little girl. So your name is Xiaohua? Huh. My name is Yuan. How did brother Yuan manage to get in here? She suddenly asked him with a curious gaze, almost like it is her first time seeing another person in her life. Get in here? We are outside, aren't we? She shook her head and said, we are inside my family's garden. Huh? Garden? Yuan looked stupefied at her answer. This forest is your garden? She nodded. If this place that looks like a forest is her family's garden, then how big was the house itself? He couldn't imagine it. While it sounded unbelievable, it also explained why such a small girl like her would appear here. Sorry for intruding, but I was teleported here by some old man against my will. He tried to explain without sounding too crazy. I'll leave immediately, so can you tell me the way? But out of his expectations, the little girl shook her head. Brother Yuan, since you are already here, why don't you play with Xiaohua? You want me to play with you? He did not expect such a request from her. Xiaohua is always alone, and it is boring to play with herself. What about your family? They are always busy and cannot play with Xiaohua. Is that so? Yuan felt sorry for her. He himself would be an outcast if it were not for his younger sister, so he knew very well what it feels like to be alone. Okay, this big brother will play with you. He patted his chest with confidence. Due to his illness that left him unable to move even a limb, he did not have the leisure to play with his younger sister when she was young, so he saw this as an opportunity to experience what it would be like if he wasn't born with that illness. Really? You will play with Xiaohua. Her eyes glittered like the tiny stars in the sky, and her bright expression was adorable enough to soften the hearts of even the cruelest killers out there. What do you want to play? Then Xiaohua will throw the ball to you, and you will throw it back, okay? She placed the book down and showed him the ball. Let me get some distance. Okay, I am ready. And without further ado, the two began playing throwing ball, and soon after, the merry laughter of a joyous little girl would echo in the forest. While Yuan was spending his time entertaining a mysterious little girl, other players would either be strengthening themselves or trying to gain more information about this world. Everybody rushed to surpass their friends and rivals in this new game that just came out, especially those who wish to become a professional and are required to be ahead of everybody else. Minutes quickly turned into hours, and while everyone was grinding in their own ways, Yuan continued to play with the little girl. What monstrous stamina this little girl has. We have been throwing this ball back and forth for many hours, yet there is not a drop of sweat on her face. Even her small body shows no sign of fatigue. Yuan smiled bittered, his entire body drenched in sweat. How could he, a young man, get worn out before a little girl that's half his age while playing throwing ball? Although he has not moved a muscle for many years in the real world, this was virtual reality. He shouldn't even be sweating, let alone feeling fatigued. What's wrong, brother Yuan? You do not look so good. Are you sick? Xiaohua's words dealt significant damage to his pride. No, I am, just a bit, tired, he said in an exhausted voice. Hearing his words, she no longer threw the ball at him. Then do you want to take a rest before we resume? You still want to play? She nodded vigorously, nearly making him cry. Okay, but let me rest for a bit. He sits down at a nearby tree, and Xiaohua follows him, sitting beside him. Where is brother Yuan from? She asked. I am from a faraway place called Earth. Earth? Seeing her glittering eyes, Yuan smiled. Do you want to hear about my homeland? Although it is not much, I still have memories of the places I went as a child. Yes, I want to hear stories about this Earth. Very well then. Yuan began telling stories to Xiaohua of the things he has done as a child, and she quickly became engrossed in his stories. After an hour of non-stop storytelling, when he ran out of both breaths and stories to tell her, Xiaohua opens the book in her grasp and spoke. Since brother Yuan played with Xiaohua and even told her stories, Xiaohua shall also tell you stories, she said. This is Xiaohua's gratitude to you, brother Yuan. Yuan did not refuse and humbly accepted her appreciation. However, when she began reading the book in her hands, He was surprised to find out that he wasn't able to understand a single word coming out of her mouth. It sounded more like chanting than a story, but he didn't want to be rude to her, so he continued to listen. Soon, without being aware, he closed his eyes. After closing his eyes, he began feeling more relaxed and comfortable, almost as though he was experiencing some kind of hypnotization. The weird chanting from Xiao Hua became less gibberish. He was beginning to comprehend her words, and information he never knew was being fed into his head. This continued for a whole hour before a sharp sound would suddenly wake Yuan from his meditative state. You have learned Heaven's secret art. Heaven's secret art. Xiao Hua smiled gently upon hearing Yuan's mumble. And suddenly, above the sky for every player to witness, a grand system notice appears. Player Yuan has become the world's first player to have learned a divine rank skill. Congratulations. The announcement shocked every witness there, especially those players at the top. The game has not even been out for a day, yet someone has managed to obtain a divine rank skill already? Who was this player Yuan? And what did he do to obtain it? What's wrong, brother Yuan? Xiao Hua asked him, who looked dazed while staring at the sky. Oh, the announcement. He pointed to the words in the sky. I don't see anything, though, she said. You cannot see the words in the sky. She shook her head, prompting Yuan to ponder. Perhaps NPCs cannot see the game's notifications? Heaven's secret art. Rank, divine. Mastery level 1. Description: there are 9 heavenly stages for Heaven's secret art. Each new stage will unlock a new ability. Heaven's first secret art, consuming heaven technique. Rank, divine. Mastery level 1. Description: absorbs 5 chi per second. Can only be activated when sitting in the lotus position. Xiao Hua, what is chi? Yuan decided to ask her, who he believes to have more knowledge than him regarding this world. Chi is the essence of this world. It is what people use to cultivate. Cultivate, huh? That old man had said the same. Let me try this. He closed his eyes and positioned himself to sit in the lotus position before activating the skill. Ding. You have cultivated for the first time, unlocking chi experience. 5/5 000. 10/5 000. 15/5 000. His chi experience increased by 5 for every second he cultivated. Additionally, when he activated the consuming heaven technique, his breathing naturally became calm and rhythmic, and his entire body felt refreshed, almost as though it was breathing through every existing pore. Within just a few minutes, Yuan suddenly felt his entire body explode with a cool feeling, almost like he had been thrown into a pool of cool water on a hot day. You have succeeded in breaking through your mortal shackles, becoming a spirit apprentice. All stats plus 100. All I have to do is sit here and cultivate to grow stronger in this game? How boring. Yuan ignorantly thought to himself. But it does feel pleasant, almost like I am relaxing in a warm bath or something of sorts. Name: Yuan. Cultivation: first level spirit apprentice. Legacy: none. Bloodline: none. Physique: heaven refining physique. Physical strength: 134. Mental strength: 375. Soul strength: 1,310. Physical defense: 110. Mental defense: 1,221. Congratulations on becoming a cultivator, brother Yuan. Xiao Hua said to him with a smile. It is all because of you, Xiao Hua. You have my gratitude. Then let's continue to play. She stood up with the ball already in her hands, ready to be thrown. Yuan smiled bitterly, but he didn't refuse and continued to play with her. Surprisingly, when he stood up, all the fatigue he had just moments ago was gone. He had fully recovered all of his exhausted energy the moment he became a cultivator. The two began playing again, but the speed the ball was being thrown seemed to be at a much faster pace than previously. Meanwhile, the world was in turmoil from the game's first world announcement. Rich and powerful companies in the real world began looking into this player named Yuan with hopes to find his real identity. However, it was a near impossible task due to the way the game handled the player's privacy. Unlike other games where one can see the player's names at glance, Cultivation Online did not have that feature. Unless the individual allows it, nobody would be able to see their name, not even their friends. After spending many resources and time looking for Yuan, people quickly came to a realization that unless Yuan willingly revealed himself, his identity would remain unknown forever. But that alone was not enough to force these people into giving up on trying to find him. The internet, game forums, even newspapers, people began offering real money for information on Yuan, even outright paying thousands for the person himself to reveal himself. Virtual reality has become so deeply involved in the real world that it would not be an exaggeration to say that professional gamers and top rankers have more fame and respect than even the top celebrities in the world. Some professional gamers, in fact, earn 7 digits every month just from S alone. In fact, even casual gamers can earn more money than people with normal jobs just by selling in-game items for real money. With so much an appeal, it would only be obvious for people to want to become a gamer where they can have fun and earn money instead of choosing work that involves labor. Furthermore, according to last year's gaming report, at least half of the world's population is a virtual gamer. After throwing the ball for a few hours without breaking a sweat, Yuan suddenly stops. What's wrong? Are you feeling tired again? Xiaohua asked him. My sister is calling for me. It is time for dinner, he said. You are going to leave? Her expression instantly turned gloomy upon hearing his words, feeling reluctant to let him leave. She was afraid that he wouldn't come back once he had left. Don't leave Xiaohua alone, she hurriedly said, almost breaking into tears. For more, visit .//com. Yuan patted her head with a smile. I will be back to play with you later, I promise. You promise? If I break my promise, then I shall swallow 10,000 needles. He swore clearly in a loud voice. Okay, then Xiaohua will wait for brother Yuan here. She took a seat by the same tree and closed her eyes to rest. Log off. Yuan's vision blurred, and the warmth in his limbs gradually disappeared. Darkness surrounded his view, and he could no longer see nor feel anything. Brother, how was the game? His sister's voice resounded beside him. It was fun. He showed a gentle smile, but deep inside, he was reluctant to leave that bright and colorful world where his body was not useless. What's for dinner today? He asked her despite already knowing the answer. Chicken soup. Yuan smiled bitterly. He has been eating nothing but soup for the last few years, after all. Here, let me help you up. She took off the helmet on his head before lifting his head and adjusting his body to his sitting position. She began feeding him warm soup with a spoon soon later. How is the temperature? Perfect. The room became quiet with Yuan drinking soup being the only sound that could be heard. After Yuan finished dinner that was only one large bowl of soup, she laid him back down on the bed. I will be right back for your cleaning, she said. Moments later, she returns to the room with a towel, a bucket of warm water, and new clothes. Excuse me, brother, she said before stripping him completely naked. You row? What is it? I'm sorry. The room instantly turned silent. What are you saying now? You are being weird, brother, she chuckled, breaking the silence. I know, but I am. His words were interrupted by a warm towel pressing down on his face. You don't have to worry about me, brother. When you cure your illness one day, then you can pay me back. An indescribable feeling welled up in Yuan's heart. Will such a day ever come? He wondered inwardly. Okay, you are all clean now, brother. Even your precious little thing. He teased Ro with a sheepish laugh. You little. Don't play around with my body, because I can't feel anything. What are you talking about? I definitely did not touch anything. You definitely did. Laughter filled the room. Ro, thank you. Yuan suddenly said, I will repay you one day. This I promise. Putting his clothes on for him, Ro smiled. I won't be humble when that time comes. All right, brother, we are done for tonight. I will be back in the morning. Can you put the helmet back on before you leave? You want to continue playing? What about sleep? I don't think I can sleep tonight, and playing the game is already considered sleeping, you know? What am I going to do with you if you get addicted? Only tonight, okay. Brother Yuan, you're really back. Xiaohua instantly stood up with a happy expression upon seeing him appear out of nowhere like a ghost. I did make a promise to you, he patted her, who was poking her head at him with clear indications. What do you want to do now that the stars are already out? He then asked. Play games. She answered without hesitation. I figured. He nodded with a smile. Yuan continued to play with Xiaohua throughout the night without a care in the world. Meanwhile, other players were either trying to find the best way to strengthen themselves or were already in the process of grinding their strength. The players also grew addicted to their new profound strength, with the power to smash rocks with mere fists and skip meters into the distance. It gave them a sense of superiority, and it made them feel really good about themselves. However, for someone who is crippled and blind in the real world, Yuan wouldn't mind spending all of his time just playing with Xiaohua, who has many resemblances to his younger sister. The world under the night sky seemed still, with the only thing moving being two shadowy figures and a ball. Xiaohua, will you be fine with playing out here till so late? Won't your parents be worried if you don't return soon? Yuan asked her after noticing that she has been out here playing with him for nearly the entire day. It is okay, Xiaohua is always out here playing by herself, so they are used to it. His pity towards her increased with every passing moment he spent with her. Xiaohua, how about we take a rest from playing and let me tell you some more stories? Stories. Her eyes began flickering like the stars in the night sky upon hearing the magic word, and she instantly sat by the tree. Yuan followed and sat beside her. The stories I will be telling you today are fairy tales from my homeland. Fairy tales? Like mythology and legends? Well, not exactly. Fairy tales are more short stories made for entertainment rather than legends and such. They are pure fiction, so it's not real. What's the difference? You will know when you hear it. Yuan began telling her famous and classical fairy tales from Earth that he's heard when he was young, such as a certain individual poisoning a girl who awakened due to a kiss from a prince, mermaids in the ocean, and pirates fighting in the sea. While it has been many years since Yuan has heard of these stories, he was still able to recall them clearly and greatly entertained Xiaohua, who was not used to this genre of stories. These people, are they all mortals? She suddenly asked him. To my knowledge, yes. This is nothing like stories of mythical beasts ruling the world or immortals overturning heaven. It is normal, yet it brings so much entertainment. She didn't know mortals could be so entertaining despite being the focus of these stories. Do you have any more fairy tales to tell Xiaohua? She asked. For more, visit lightnovelpu.com. Unfortunately, that was all I could remember, but I will find some more to tell you later. It's a promise. It's a promise. Yuan smiled. Okay, then it is Xiaohua's turn to read. She opened the same book she used to teach him heaven's secret art. That's... Yuan wondered if she was going to teach him another skill. Although brother Yuan has already learned the technique, you have not fully mastered it. However, with your powerful comprehension skills, Xiaohua believes that brother Yuan will master it in no time. Thus, she began reading. However, this time around, Yuan was only able to understand everything from the beginning only to lose comprehension later on. It felt like he was listening to a story with a plot that quickly deepens as it progresses, becoming more mysterious and profound. It took Xiaohua nearly an hour to finish reading the book that was only a dozen pages thick. When she finished, she looked at Yuan to see the expression he was making. He was sitting still with his eyes closed, and on his face was a calm expression, looking as though he was in a trance. Brother Yuan is truly a genius, she mumbled to herself. What takes others many tries to comprehend takes you only one time. What takes others many years to learn, you learn in just a few hours. Her gaze stared at his face non-stop, seemingly enchanted by his expression. Who are you really? Your comprehension for heaven's secret art has greatly increased. Heaven's secret art mastery level has been increased, 1-2. You have learned heaven's second secret art, heaven splitting sword strike. Heaven's second secret art, heaven splitting sword strike. Rank, divine. Mastery level 1. Description, consumes 10,000 chi. Must wield a sword to activate. Creates a pillar of light that will destroy everything that dares to block its path. When Yuan opened his eyes again, Xiaohua was resting her head on his lap, and the night sky had already long passed with the sun peeking in the horizon. It's already morning? He wondered how long he had been in that trance state. Oh, you're awake, brother Yuan. Xiaohua rubbed her eyes and casually sat up. Did you learn anything new during your enlightenment? Enlightenment? Is that what that feeling was? I see. Right? I have reached the second stage of heaven's secret art and learned heaven's splitting sword strike. Xiaohua looked at him with her eyes slightly widened more than usual, seemingly filled with surprise. Good job, brother Yuan. She gave him a thumbs up a moment later. But your cultivation base is lacking, so you will not be able to use it right away. Right, it says I need 10,000 chi for its activation. Is it the same chi as the one I absorb when cultivating? She nodded to his question. It says I have 5,010 tenths, 000 chi right now. If I max it out and use the skill, won't my chi be depleted, and I will have to cultivate until I gain it back? Your depleted chi will naturally recover until it returns to its original state, so you will not have to cultivate every time you use a technique. However, recovering chi naturally takes time, and it will slow down your cultivation. That is why cultivators do not use their chi pointlessly. Xiaohua explained to him, as though she was an expert. Additionally, if your chi falls below a certain point, then your body will be in a weakened state until you recover your chi. In extreme cases, you may lose consciousness or even the ability to cultivate. Yuan took his time digesting all of the information. So if I have 100 chi and I use a skill that requires 10 chi, my remaining 90 chi will naturally recover back to 100 without the need to cultivate. He asked her just in case. Seeing her nod, Yuan fully understood the system. So it is just like any other game, but with a slight twist that requires more management. Chi is required for skills, but also for a breakthrough in cultivation. It would be unwise to use it unless necessary. Thank you, Xiaohua. If not for you, I would still be clueless right now. Brother Yuan, gratitude is shown with action, not with words. She patted her own head, causing him to laugh. Right. Thank you very much, he said with his hands on her head. After Xiaohua was satisfied, Yuan stood up and said, "It is about time for me to leave again, but I will be back later." Xiaohua didn't stop him this time and nodded. Bye-bye, Brother Yuan. Play with Xiaohua again when you get back, okay? Here, you can use this to call me. She handed him a necklace that she had just removed from her neck. Yuan accepted the necklace without much thought. Then, I will see you later. He waved at her before disappearing from the sunlight like a ghost. After Yuan left, Xiaohua stared at where he stood before logging off, seemingly in a daze. Thank you for playing with Xiaohua. Her body suddenly began to flicker, and her body glowed with beautiful light. It was fun, really fun. Her body slowly broke down into tiny lights resembling fireflies before floating towards the clouds and disappearing. Congratulations. Player Yuan has completed the world's first hidden quest. Brother Yuan. That night, a sweet and childish voice echoed across the starry sky. Good morning, brother. Morning. I have breakfast with me, she said, placing the bowl of soup on the adjustable table on the bed. Ro, can I ask you for a favor? Yuan asked her as he's being fed like a patient in a hospital. What is it? I'd like to hear some fairy tales tonight. His words dumbfounded her, who wasn't expecting such a request. Why fairy tales? She asked in a worrying tone, afraid the illness might have finally messed up his mind. I made a friend in the game, and she happens to be a young NPC. I promised her that I'd tell her more fairy tales, he explained. You are telling fairy tales to NPCs? Brother, what are you doing, really? Ro sighed, thinking how silly he was being. Don't let the fact that they are NPCs fool you into thinking that they are not worth your time. They move, think, react, and speak like real players. You wouldn't know if they are a real player or not unless you ask them. Yeah. Just don't do anything weird to her, alright? Weird? Why would I do anything weird? Yuan asked. Haven't you heard? There have been plenty of perverts getting killed for touching NPCs inappropriately. The penalty for death is extremely harsh in this game from what I heard. Perverts touching NPCs? You can do that in this game. Yuan lifted his eyebrows in surprise. What a profound game. You're thinking about doing something perverted, aren't you? Don't even think about it, brother. I prohibit you from doing that as your sister. That only works if you are the older one, no? He smiled. Then I will stop taking care of you. A3, do you think your brother is some kind of pervert that likes to touch NPCs? Unlike some people, I have morals, you know. He sighed and continued to speak. Anyway, what is this death penalty, and what happens if you die? He was more interested in that than the perverts in the game. According to those who have died, some became unable to cultivate after death, while some have even lost their cultivation base entirely, requiring them to restart from scratch. For more, visit .com. Yuan pondered. So you basically have to start from the beginning. That is indeed very harsh for a game. Additionally, some people have already tried to buy new consoles to start fresh, but guess what? They still appear in the game with the same character. So we are limited to one character no matter what. Yuan cannot comprehend the game creator's motive for creating such a system. It's almost as if they want humans to live in another world with life as realistic as possible. Brother, it's time for me to go to school. I will pick up some fairy tales on the way home, she said before leaving. Thank you. She's not here. Yuan looked around for a small figure, but Xiaohua was nowhere to be found. I guess she went home. He decided to sit down and cultivate to wait for her. Seconds turned into minutes, and minutes turned into hours. Until night came, Yuan sat there like a stone statue, cultivating and unaware that time had passed by so quickly. 10,000/10,000. You have absorbed enough chi for a breakthrough. You have reached second level Spirit Apprentice. All stats plus 150. 10,005/20,000. 20,000/20,000. You have absorbed enough chi for a breakthrough. You have reached third level Spirit Apprentice. All stats plus 200. 20,005/40,000. 40,000/40,000. You have absorbed enough chi for a breakthrough. You have reached fourth level Spirit Apprentice. All stats plus 250. 80,000/80,000. You have absorbed enough chi for a breakthrough. You have reached 5th level Spirit Apprentice. All stats plus 300. 148, 550/160, 000. Yuan did not stop cultivating until it was time for him to eat dinner. We couldn't play today, but that's fine. At least I will have stories ready for the next time we meet. He stared at the night sky for a moment before logging off. After feeding Yuan and getting him cleaned, Yuro began reading fairy tales to him like a mother would tell stories to her child before bedtime, but her voice was still too immature to sound like a real mother. "How was my narration?" she asked him in a cheeky tone. "It sucked." "What? Fine. You can read it yourself next time." I'm sorry, Yuro. I was only joking." Yuan hurriedly corrected himself. "Your voice was so heavenly that I thought you were a real fairy." Yuro blushed. "It was embarrassing to read these childish stories out loud, you know," she said later. "I will remember this debt you owe me." Yes. I will even give you my life. So find me a few more fairy tales, okay?" "Yuro?" He called out to her after receiving no answer. "Brother, please don't say things like that ever again," said Yuro with a serious expression on her face, her voice somewhat sorrowful. Yuan quickly realized that he had screwed up. "I'm sorry." He apologized right away. "As long as you understand." Yuro left his side to close the light. "Brother, it is getting late. You should go to sleep now." Good night." "Good night, brother." Inside her room, Yuro surfed the internet on her phone for some time before sleeping like always. This player Yuan is very mysterious and baffling. In just 2 days since the game's launch, he was able to become the first player to obtain a divine rank skill and finish a hidden quest. Is he even human? Despite not being able to play the game due to school and Yuan, she would still keep up with the newest information about the game, so when the time comes for her to play, she wouldn't feel too lost. Meanwhile, my brother is fooling around with a young NPC. She smiled bitterly at that thought. Wow, his bounty has increased to 5 million already. Her eyes widened at the effort and money others were willing to put out just to find this one player. So much fame. How envious. She turned the phone off and closed her eyes. Brother 2 used to be flickering with lights under the spotlight. She sighed before slowly falling asleep. How is the search going? Have you found any information on this player Yuan yet? A handsome young man sat on his bed with Cultivation Online's console, the helmet still on his head, his gaze at the middle-aged man standing by the door. "Sorry, young master, but this player seems resolute in keeping his identity a secret. Not even our offer was able to lure him out," said the middle-aged man in a tired tone. "He has gone without sleep for the past 2 days just to look for information on Yuan, but alas, the results came back in a box of disappointment filled with a whole lot of nothing. Not taking the bait. Then all we have to do is increase the temptation. Go and adjust the reward to 20 million. Unless this player is already super wealthy, then he will surely bite the bait sooner or later," said the young man casually, as though 20 million means nothing in his eyes. Understood. The middle-aged man then left the young man alone. "I will have my hands on this player no matter the price. This individual is either Lady Luck's child or has connections to the game creators, allowing him to obtain things in the game that normal people will never have a chance to obtain. If I get him to join my faction, then my family's position within the ranks will surely rise." Similar scenes played out throughout the world with many high-standing figures doing whatever they can in their power to learn more about this player Yuan, who is already light years ahead of everyone else in the game. Unaware that Yuan still has no idea how much of a stir he has created in the real world just because of a few system announcements. While Cultivation Online is just a mere game in Yuan's eyes, that was not the case for others, who have their own ulterior motives. After eating breakfast, Yuan went into the game, but alas, the small figure of Xiaohua's was still nowhere to be found. Did she get in trouble with her family for staying out so late? He thought of that possibility. Maybe she was lying about her family not worrying, so we could play for a bit longer. Yuan sighed, missing the cheerful little girl. Without her, what else is there to do in this world? Strength, wealth, fame. Yuan was not interested in any of these. All he wanted to do was have fun and use his body normally, something he cannot achieve in the real world. He pulled out the necklace she gave him before she left. Shaking his head, he sighed. "I shouldn't be so impatient. I will wait for her just like she had waited for my return." Thus, he sat down to cultivate again. While it was boring at first, as he slowly grew used to cultivating, he began feeling pleasure, like getting a massage during a nap. Time passed quickly, and the night sky appears once again. 160,000/160,000. You have absorbed enough chi for a breakthrough. You have reached 6th level Spirit Apprentice. All stats plus 350. 320,000/320,000. You have absorbed enough chi for a breakthrough. You have reached 7th level Spirit Apprentice. You have learned Enhanced Senses. All stats plus 400. Enhanced Sense. Rank. Not applicable. Description. Permanently enhances the functions of all available senses. Requires no activation. 320, 295/640, 000. It is taking longer and longer to advance to the next level, and the requirement needed is doubling with every level. Just how many more levels is there? Yuan pondered, but knowing he's still an apprentice makes him worry about the later stages. It will take a month of straight cultivating to advance one level in the later stages at this rate. This cultivation thing is such a chore. Just as Yuan was about to log off for tonight, an announcement appears in the sky, attracting countless gazes from below. Congratulations! Player White Lotus has become the world's first player to have obtained a servant. While Yuan wondered what type of servant this White Lotus had obtained, everybody else was surprised to see Player White Lotus instead of Player Yuan, who was thought to have another shock for the world. But of course, many players were also relieved to know that Yuan would no longer be the only ancestor in the world. Ancestor is a title created by the community that refers to those who have appeared in the system as a world's first after Yuan's first announcement. Servants, huh? Yuan suddenly began having desires of obtaining a servant. But how does one obtain a servant? After logging off the game, Yuro was already beside him with dinner in her hands. Yuro, how do you obtain servants in this game? He decided to ask her. Servants? Did someone obtain a servant already? She asked with curiosity. Also, I don't know anything about obtaining servants. It was someone named White Lotus. White Lotus? Yuro immediately recognized that name. She is one of the top players at the moment who has a cultivation base at 5th level Spirit Apprentice. Furthermore, she is actually a rich young lady in real life, too. 5th level Spirit Apprentice is considered the top. Yuan, who is already a 7th level Spirit Apprentice, was surprised to hear that someone who is 2 whole levels behind him is at the top. Are they really top players? I barely cultivated, and I'm already 2 levels above one of the top rankers. He wondered. Yuro, who has the highest cultivation in the game as of this moment. I believe it is someone known as Lightning Emperor, who is a 6th level Spirit Apprentice. Whoa, what an edgy name. That's what you're concerned about. Yuro chucked. Say, what's your cultivation now? Since you spent most of your time fooling around, it should be pretty low, right? Let me take a guess. You are a 2nd level Spirit Apprentice. Yuan grinned. Wrong. 1st level Spirit Apprentice. Wrong again. What? Don't tell me. You have yet to cultivate. Yuro, since when have I become so pitiful and weak in your eyes? Your brother is disappointed, Yuan said in a sorrowful voice. A3, never mind, I am just a nobody in the game, anyway. And like you have said, I have been fooling around, so hurry up and play with me so we can do things together. This week is impossible since I still have school, but next week for sure when summer break begins. School, huh? I am envious. Yuan smiled bitterly. Going to school is nothing to be envious about, brother. It is boring and tiring, sighed Yuro. But I still envy you and every student out there. He sighed inwardly. After talking for a few more minutes, Yuro went back to her room to sleep, and Yuan himself also went to sleep. If she doesn't appear by tomorrow, I should use that necklace, he told himself before falling asleep. Xiaohua, where are you? Your favorite brother is here to play with you. Yuan shouted loudly in the forest the moment he logged into the game. A3, what am I doing? He sat down afterward, his hand reaching for the necklace around his neck. Despite it seemingly made out of steel with a piece of jade attached, the necklace was as light as a feather, nearly weightless. Xiaohua's necklace. Grade. Description, obtained from Xiaohua. Even though she said to use this to call her. How do I use it? He played around with the necklace as he pondered. He tried poking it, caressing it, commanding it to open, even licking it, but alas, the necklace remained unchanged. After many minutes and many failures later, Yuan decided to stop trying to activate the necklace. Oh, Xiaohua, how can you give me something so complicated without explaining its functions? He sighed loudly. Suddenly, as though the heavens heard his sigh, the earth trembled. __. The sound of metal clashing resounded, followed by loud cursing. Eat my coiling sword strike, you bastard. Courting death. Boom. A loud explosion appeared in the distance, startling Yuan. What just happened? Why did the earth tremble the way it did just now? Did someone drop a bomb? Clang. The sound of metal clashing resounded again, and a gust of wind suddenly swept the place, nearly lifting Yuan into the air. Devil Mengli. If I don't kill you today, then I am not Zhan Shuigang. Ahaha. A mere half-step spirit grandmaster like you think you can kill me? Today will be the day you will realize your foolish existence. In hell. Clang, clang, clang. Visible ripples filled with profound power swiftly swept the sky after every clash, sending chills down Yuan's spine every time it swept past him. It is actually two people fighting against each other that is causing this phenomenon. Yuan was shocked, to say the least. To fight in someone else's garden, how disrespectful. Soon, two figures could be seen fighting each other in the air from where Yuan stood. One with long red hair, and one with long black hair. They were flying back and forth, throwing powerful sword strikes at each other that would create ripples upon being blocked by the other person. They are flying, just like that old man. Yuan recalled Elder's song, the old man who gave him and thousands of other players a brief explanation about this world while standing on a sword in the air. The fight in the air lasted for many minutes without either one gaining an advantage over the other. They seemed to be equally matched. However, as they were getting closer and closer to where Yuan stood, the destructive ripples created by their sword clashes also became painful to bear for him. Despite not being a part of the fight, Yuan could feel a dominating pressure making it difficult for him to breathe, and his body felt as though it was carrying a large rock. Die for me. 7 earthly sword strikes. Ahaha. Too weak. Way too weak. Bloody sword strike. A ripple far superior to the previous swept through the place until it could no longer be seen on the horizon. Cough. Yuan could no longer resist the pressure and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Damn, this is really uncomfortable. He wiped the blood from his mouth with his hand. I can even taste the iron-like taste of blood. Yuan was completely immersed at this moment. The pain in his body and the realistic features of this game temporarily made him forget that this was just a game. If they get any closer, I will definitely die from collateral damage. He began running away from the two, but the clashes between them were also getting stronger. 9 earthly sword strikes. Devil's blood. Boom. Trees fell and the clouds scattered from the impact, and Yuan was sent flying towards a tree, losing consciousness a moment later. Ha ha ha. Zhan Shuigong, what's wrong? Didn't you say that you will kill me today? One of the figures began laughing while pointing at the other person who was missing an arm. The prime disciple of the profound sword sect is only so-so, just like that junior sister of yours. Ha ha ha. I will kill you. Zhan Shuigong roared. His eyes turned red, and his cultivation base suddenly increased dramatically. What? The eyes of Devil Ming Li widened from shock. You had a breakthrough in the middle of our fight. I will avenge junior apprentice Sister Xia today by killing you even if I have to lose all 4 of my limbs and become a cripple. His eyes and nose began bleeding, and veins appeared all over his body. Was she your lover by any chance? Then let me tell you something important before you die. Her body was amazing. It is truly a pity that she had killed herself so quickly, or else I would have surely enjoyed her body even more. Ha ha ha. Meng Li, go to hell. The blue sword in Zhan Shuigong's grasp glowed a dark blue light, and killing intent soared beyond the clouds. Spirit Blade. Trying to bring me down with you? Just because you are now a spirit grandmaster like me does not mean we are on equal standing, you fool. Meng Li's red hair glowed a crimson color along with his eyes, looking like a real devil from hell. Hell's fire. Suddenly, before the two of them could release their techniques, a little girl in red robes appeared in between them like a ghost, and in her grasp was a necklace covered in fresh blood. For more, visit lightnov.com. For disturbing the peace of our place, your cultivation base shall be crippled as a punishment. The little girl waved her sleeves, and Meng Li and Zhan Shuigong felt their entire cultivation base collapse an instant later. Without any cultivation to support them, the two were no longer able to control their attacks or fly, and they fell straight to the ground, breaking many bones upon hitting the earth. Who are you? Meng Li cried out loud as he laid on the ground, experiencing major pain across his body. To cripple him, a spirit grandmaster, with a mere wave of her sleeves, her background must be shocking. As for Zhan Shuigong, he could only stare at the little girl in the air with wide eyes. He was too shocked to think. What did we do to offend you? Answer me. Meng Li shouted again after receiving no answer from her. However, the little girl ignored him, descended from the sky to a nearby tree, and walked to where Yuan's unconscious body laid. That's the trash who was watching us fight. Meng Li was aware of Yuan's presence and that he had been watching them, but because he was too weak to affect them, Meng Li treated Yuan like an ant and ignored him. The same goes for Zhan Shuigong. The little girl kneeled to wipe the blood off Yuan's lips, her hands trembling slightly. For injuring him, you shall be punished with death. After wiping the blood from Yuan's lips, the little girl stood and turned to face the two figures lying on the floor, her expression grim and filled with killing intent. For more, visit li/tnovelpub/com. Heaven-splitting sword strike. The world suddenly trembled, and the heaven dimmed, almost turning into night. And a sword made from a golden light appeared in the grasp of the little girl. Heaven-splitting sword strike. Impossible. What are you doing here in the lower heavens? Zhang Shuigong recognized the technique being witnessed, and his heart nearly stopped from shock. The little girl ignored his question and suddenly slashed the sword downwards, and the heavens seemed to have split into two at that moment. Boom. A massive earthquake shook the entire eastern continent, shocking many experts within the continent, even alerting many ancient experts around the world. Yuan slowly opened his eyes, and the first thing that he noticed was the obviously large earth fissure in front of him with an end that he cannot physically see, looking as though it separated the earth in half. What did those two cause this? This is ridiculous. Yuan's back was soaked in cold sweat upon seeing the earth fissure that seemed endless. He couldn't imagine the power that was required to cause this much destruction. This earth fissure was more than enough to change the geography of this world. Suddenly, Yuan's heart jumped. He slowly turned his head, and it was this moment he realized that he had been sleeping on the soft lap of this little girl. Xiaohua. He was pleasantly surprised to see her sitting beside him, even allowing him to sleep on her lap. Are you hurt anywhere? Yuan felt relieved upon seeing no injuries on her. Xiaohua suddenly pulled his head back down to her lap. Master, you shouldn't move too much. You are injured. Yuan became dumbfounded. What did you just call me? Master? What kind of game are we playing this time? This is not a game. Xiaohua has accepted brother Yuan as her master. She showed him the necklace covered in blood with a serious expression. That's the necklace you gave me. Oh, so that's what you meant by using that to call you. To summon you as a servant? He facepalmed upon realizing the real meaning behind her words, making a loud slapping sound. Xiaohua. Aya. He sighed loudly. Do you not accept Xiaohua? Her expression saddened. Is Xiaohua a bad girl? That's not it. I really like you. But to keep you as a servant is too much, since it will cause many unnecessary misunderstandings. Misunderstands? Xiaohua does not mind. But I do. Yuan replied inside his head. After a moment of silence, Yuan finally said to her, Brother Yuan. Huh? Xiaohua looked at him with a puzzled expression on her face. As long as you call me Brother Yuan like normally, then there will be no misunderstandings. He explained to her. Then, her eyes began sparkling. Brother Yuan. She suddenly hugged him, hiding the bashful smile on her face. You have accepted Xiaohua as your servant. Name, Xiaohua. Servant grade, divine. Master, Yuan. Cultivation, 3rd level spirit king. Legacy, supreme heaven's legacy. Bloodline, divine bloodline. Physique, purple mist physique. Heaven's secret art. Rank, divine. Mastery level 4. Heaven's first secret art, consuming heaven technique. Rank, divine. Mastery level 5. Heaven's second secret art, heaven splitting sword strike. Rank, divine. Mastery level 4. Heaven's third secret art, heavenly domain. Rank, divine. Mastery level 2. Heaven's fourth secret art, heaven sealing technique. Rank, divine. Mastery level 1. Fly. Rank, earth. Superior senses. Rank, heaven. Chi manifestation. Rank, earth. Purple mist. Rank, divine. Congratulations. Player Yuan has obtained the world's first divine grade servant. When the announcement appeared above the sky, countless cries of shock resounded around the world, and rumors of player Yuan being a cheater quickly began spreading like wildfire on this day. What the hell? This player Yuan is clearly already at endgame, while the rest of us are still picking herbs just to earn barely enough money for a common weapon. The game hasn't even been out for a week, and he is already obtaining things that will probably take months, even years of grinding. Can he even be considered a player at this point anymore? He is ahead of the entire player base, and not by a small margin. At this rate, couldn't he potentially rule over everybody at some point? This asshole must be cheating. There is no way he can obtain all these things so quickly. Even the current best players are nowhere near him, and I refuse to believe that some known name can possibly be so far ahead of everyone else without cheating. That's right. He's clearly cheating. Where are the admins? What about the game creators? He needs to be punished. He either has balls that are hard as steel, or he's completely nuts. To cheat so openly, does he think it wouldn't raise even a little bit of suspicion? Rumors of Yuan cheating in the game began spreading like wildfire across the internet. Cheaters nowadays, especially in popular games, are punished more severely than older times where cheating would only be frowned upon, but nobody really tries anything major to stop them. Furthermore, if you are caught cheating, then there is a high possibility of receiving a fine that is more expensive than 10 years of rent for housing. And there are even many cases of cheaters being jailed for up to 4 years. For more, visit lighten/o/v/lpub.com. With so many risks involved, only those who are rich and really don't care would be willing to cheat. However, even these types of people wouldn't cheat so openly. So in Yuan's case, people could only assume that he was completely nuts to be so obvious in the current most popular game in the world. Cheating, huh? What do you think, White Lotus? Do you also believe this Yuan to be a cheater? A handsome young man in purple robes kicked the decapitated wolf head by his feet to the side. In his grasp was a steel sword with a black handle, and blue lightning snakes would coil around the blade every so often that was dripping with fresh blood. Beside him stood 2 other people, both beautiful ladies. The beautiful young lady with elegant features by his side silently stared at the announcement in the sky. Whether he is cheating or not does not concern me, she said a moment later, her gaze switching from the announcement to the large black cat beside her. But I am interested in what a divine rank servant would look like. Her 2-tailed black cat is a normal monster without a grade, but it has great agility and powerful attacks. If compared to cultivators, then its power would be equivalent to a 4th-level spirit apprentice. This divine grade servant. With this, his influence within and outside the game is massive and can no longer be ignored, and his actions could very well greatly impact the world. What's this? Is the Lightning Emperor, ranked 3rd in the legacy ranking, feeling pressure from a known name? The other beautiful lady laughed charmingly. Do you feel nothing regarding our situation, Fiery Queen? Lightning Emperor looked at her with a serious expression. This is not a joking matter. Forget about me. The entire legacy ranking may be thrown into disorder because of this Yuan. I'd be lying if I say I am not interested in this player, but the entire legacy ranking? That's an exaggeration. He's probably just another cheater. What if he turns out to be the real deal, someone with extreme luck and skills? What will you do then? The cheerful expression on Fiery Queen's face turned serious after his question. Then I will obviously do what I have to and recruit him. Huh? Do you think you are the only one with that thought? Forget about the Feng family who is currently ranked 1st. Every family within the legacy ranking is actively looking for him, even as we speak. Che, I know that already. But it doesn't matter how many are looking for him. As long as I find him first, then he will be mine. Lightning Emperor only snorted at her words. Talking to you is a waste of breath. We're here, the skeleton graveyard. Lightning Emperor readied his sword, his awareness alert. In front of the current 3 top players was a large graveyard with many skeletons walking around awkwardly, like wooden puppets with stiff movements. Let's quickly finish this. I am feeling sick just from your presence, said Fiery Queen. You willingly followed us. Only because we happen to have accepted the same quest. Che, let's go. They have already noticed us. Fiery Queen retrieved her weapon, which was a long whip. White Lotus followed, holding a normal-looking sword in front of her. Despite being top players, neither of them had any chance to obtain weapons with a grade, so they can only put up with these normal weapons with no grade. Lightning Element. Lightning Emperor caressed his sword, causing the lightning snakes to return, coiling around the blade as though it was dancing. Body Enhancement, Speed. Fiery Queen's supple body glowed blue, and her body could no longer feel any weight, feeling as though she has become as light as a feather. Suhei, White Lotus said softly, and the black cat stood in front of her. Let's go. Lightning Emperor kicked his feet, flying towards the skeletons at a quick speed. Don't order me around. Fiery Queen also charged forward, followed by White Lotus and her servant. Xiao Huayu. Yuan was shocked upon seeing her character status. Although he doesn't understand what they meant, they were obviously not ordinary. To have a companion this powerful so early on in the game, isn't this technically cheating? Yuan was aware of the advantage he currently has over all the other players, but because he isn't playing for competitive reasons, he doesn't plan to use this advantage. Say Xiaohua, compared to a spirit apprentice cultivator, how much stronger are you as a spirit king? He asked her so he could better comprehend the differences between them. Xiaohua looked at him weirdly for a moment before saying, 1,000, 10,000. Brother Yuan, they cannot be compared because the difference is too vast. The difference is too vast? How so? That mountain over there. Xiaohua can make it disappear with one attack. She pointed at the large mountain at the horizon and said casually, disappear with one attack? Yuan's eyes popped when he heard her confident words. If what she said was true, wouldn't that make her a walking bomb with destructive power equivalent to a nuke? One that can be used multiple times? How could she possibly be a mere servant? Wouldn't her existence be considered a bit unbalanced for a game? Or are all cultivators this powerful once they reach a certain stage? Yuan couldn't help but wonder what the game creators were thinking when they thought that giving such a small girl like her so much power would be a great idea. Xiaohua, do not use your powers recklessly, okay? I don't want to see you accidentally destroy a city or a piece of land. He suddenly turned to look at the earth fisher, his eyes wide open. Xiaohua, did you do this? He asked her after having a feeling that it wasn't the two cultivators who had created this mess. She nodded calmly, seemingly thinking nothing much of it. A3, Yuan sighed loudly. What if you had accidentally hit somebody with that? Xiaohua, listen up. Do not use your power unless I give you permission, okay? She accepted his request quite easily. Good. Yuan looked at the earth fisher one more time before turning away with a bitter smile on his face. Let's go, Xiaohua. It'd be bad if someone were to see us here right now. For more, visit li/tnov/lpub //com. Thus, the two began walking further from the crime scene. Xiaohua, what will you do now that you have become my servant? Yuan asked her, still unsure of what the purpose of servants is in this game. Xiaohua will follow Brother Yuan wherever he goes, she answered quickly. And she will lead you to the next realm. Huh? Lead me to the next realm? Well, never mind that for now. What about your family? What will they say if you decide to leave home to follow me? Brother Yuan is Xiaohua's family now, so there are no problems. She looked at him with flickering eyes. I don't think that logic would work. He shook his head, unsure of what to do with her. For more, visit lig/tno/v/lpub.com. Taking a child who he met only a few days ago away from her family would cause countless problems if this was the real world. But Yuan recalled that he was in a game, and she is only an NPC, so there shouldn't be any problems. All right, do as you wish, Xiaohua, he finally said with a forfeiting smile. Congratulations. Player Lightning Emperor, player White Lotus, and player Fiery Queen has become the first players to have cleared Skeleton Graveyard. The sudden announcement shocked many players, but it was not because they were the first to clear this dungeon, but because 3 different families from the legacy ranking were grouped together. In other words, they were cooperating, something that is rarely seen by the public, if ever. Holy shit. 3 of the top 10 families within the legacy are actually cooperating to clear a dungeon together. Perhaps they have decided to make an alliance to bring down this player Yuan? That is a possibility. Many players gossiped about the new announcement online, some even making conspiracies. The legacy ranking is a system in the real world, or a real-world ranking so to speak, where professional players fight each other competitively to obtain a spot within the legacy ranking. There can only be 100 players in the legacy ranking, ranked 1 to 100. Being a part of the legacy ranking brings countless profits and almost no downfalls. Wealth, fame, authority, power. One can obtain all that just by being in the legacy ranking. Additionally, once a player becomes a part of the legacy ranking, regardless of their rank, their family will also become a legacy family, allowing them to recruit talented players to help them remain or climb the ranks within the legacy ranking, almost like a guild or clan in games. Countless players, young and old, fight in worldwide tournaments just to obtain the qualifications to challenge someone who is within the legacy ranking to steal their spot. Furthermore, only one game would be chosen every decade as the focus. Because of this, the rankings would usually have major changes every decade, except for those at the very top of the ranking. The game the legacy ranking had chosen to be the main focus for this decade was obviously Cultivation Online, the hottest Vermorpt in the world to date. Moments after the announcement, another one appears above the clouds. Congratulations. Player Xiong Lu has obtained the world's first spirit grade equipment. He's finally appeared, huh? Lightning Emperor narrowed his gaze at the name on the announcement. Xiong Lu of the Heaven's Divinity, standing at the top of the legacy ranking as the #1 player in this world. He is a major figure even in the real world, owning one of the biggest gaming companies out there. Even an unsurpassable monster like him could only obtain the lowest grade equipment in this game after so many hours. Yet this Yuan. Fiery Queen sighed loudly. Xiaohua, what are the grades for equipment? Yuan asked her after the announcement disappeared. Spirit, Earth, Heaven, Divine, each broken into 4 tiers of quality: low, medium, high, and peak. There are other grades higher than Divine, but there is no need to worry about that since you can only find them in the higher realms. Realm? You also mentioned that before. What did you mean by bringing me to the next realm? Brother Yuan is currently in the lowest realm, the lower heaven. Xiaohua's job is to help Brother Yuan reach the highest realm, the supreme heaven. Your job? He questioned. Why and who would give her such a job? Xiao Hua accepted the Supreme Heaven's legacy, so it became her job to find a successor. What a deep game. Yuan looked at the sky. How do we get to the next realm? He asked. Brother Yuan is too weak right now and should only worry about getting stronger. After that, we can challenge the Realm Guardian for access to the next realm. So it's that kind of game, huh? Yuan became more understanding of the goal of this game. Is there a reward for getting there? The Supreme Heaven, he asked out of curiosity, not expecting anything too much. Everything, she answered after a moment of silence. The winner shall obtain everything this world has to offer. So, they become this world's god. Yuan totally did not expect such a generous reward. Allowing players to become god? So the game creators are essentially giving admin powers to those who reach that point? How generous of them. But I have no use for such power, so I will enjoy my life to the fullest and leave it to others to fight for that reward. Yuan thought to himself. He was content with just having the ability to use his eyes and limbs as he wishes. After walking for some time, Yuan finally realized that they were walking aimlessly without a destination. Xiao Hua, where should we go now? Or rather, what should we do? He asked her, who seemed to be the one leading this journey. Xiao Hua looked at him with a nonchalant expression and said, help Brother Yuan get stronger. And how will we do that? Although he doesn't really desire strength, it wasn't something he would refuse either. That. Xiao Hua suddenly pointed to the distance where there was an open field, and in this middle of this open field was a large figure at least 5 meters tall. That's a frog. Yuan quickly blinked a few times non-stop when he saw the massive frog with jade-like skin sitting in the middle with its eyes closed, seemingly sleeping. That is a jade frog. It has power equivalent to a 9th-level Spirit Apprentice cultivator. 9th-level Spirit Apprentice. I am only a 7th-level Spirit Apprentice. Are you telling me to go kill myself? Yuan nearly cried upon hearing her words. For more, visit.com. Although the Jade Frog is 2 levels above Brother Yuan's cultivation base, it shouldn't matter because Brother Yuan has cultivated the heaven-consuming technique, allowing him to be stronger than most cultivators at the same level. Is that really how it works? But I also don't know how to fight. It noticed us. Yuan suddenly pointed at the Jade Frog, its head turned towards their direction with killing intent radiating from its gaze. Whoosh! The Jade Frog suddenly leaped and appeared dozens of meters into the sky, almost as though it was trying to touch the clouds. Watch out! Yuan instinctively grabbed Xiao Hua by her waist with one hand and jumped back to avoid the shadow. Seconds later, the Jade Frog lands at where they originally stood, creating a dent in the ground. That was close. Yuan wiped the invisible sweat from his forehead when he saw the hole on the ground. They could have been meat paste if he didn't dodge that. Brother Yuan, good luck. She gave him a thumbs up and casually walked to the side to watch, dumbfounding Yuan. Thinking that she was just an ant, the Jade Frog ignored her and kept its gaze on Yuan. For more, visit lightnov.com. You? How am I supposed to fight this monster without any weapons? He cried out loud. Then Brother Yuan can use this. Xiao Hua retrieved a small pouch from her robes, pulling out a steel sword from inside. However, when she pulled out the sword, it also alerted the Jade Frog, causing it to leap towards her. In the Jade Frog's eyes, Xiao Hua, who has a weapon, was more of a threat than Yuan, who was empty-handed, so it ignored Yuan and went for her instead. Xiao Hua, watch out, he shouted to warn her, but Xiao Hua only watched it fall on her with a calm expression. Boom. The ground slightly shook when the Jade Frog landed on Xiao Hua's small frame. Yuan's eyes widened, and his jaw dropped from shock. In his mind, Xiao Hua has most likely turned into a pancake after being squashed by the Jade Frog's massive body and weight. Suddenly, purple mists began seeping out from beneath the Jade Frog, almost like it had farted, and Yuan returned to his senses. The purple mist distanced itself from the Jade Frog and gathered beside Yuan, before forming into the figure of a small girl. Xiao Hua. Yuan was baffled by what he'd just witnessed. What just happened? What's wrong, Brother Yuan? She asked him in a normal voice as though she did not just get flattened by the Jade Frog. What happened just now? Xiao Hua's purple mist physique. Yes, but I am also talking about why you just stood there to take its attack. You nearly gave me a heart attack. But Brother Yuan said Xiao Hua cannot use her power until Xiao Hua has permission, and Xiao Hua did not have permission. Yuan looked at her with wide eyes, his expression perplexed. Are you an idiot? He suddenly yelled at her. Startled, Xiao Hua shrunk her head like a scared turtle. Even if you didn't want to use your powers, you could have just dodged. There was no reason for you to stand there and take the hit. Yuan was upset, but mostly at himself for telling her to do something without thinking about it. Xiao Hua is just an NPC, someone programmed to act and do things a certain way. So if Yuan told her to sit, then she will sit without questioning him, her master. But Yuan didn't take into consideration that she was an NPC, who was also his servant, and treated her as a real human, hence why he believed that she would have some logic in her when he told her to not use her power recklessly. Sorry, Xiaohua apologized. A3. Yuan facepalmed when he saw her sad face. I should be the one apologizing, Xiaohua. I had told you to do something without thinking. I'm sorry. Question mark. When I told you to not use your powers, I didn't mean to completely seal off your power and be a punching bag. If you are in danger or feel like you need to use your powers, then just use it. What about Brother Yuan's permission? Forget I had ever said that, and use it according to your judgment. What I am trying to say is there's no need to crack an egg by smashing it with a large rock, and think about your surroundings and the environment before you decide to use it. Xiaohua understands. She nodded. Good. Now, give me that sword. I have a debt to settle with this damn frog. The moment Yuan grabbed the steel sword by the handle, information about the sword appeared in his head. Spirit sword. Grade, Spirit. Quality, Peak. Physical strength required, 900. Mental strength required, 1,500. Sharpness, 1,000. Description, cuts metal like butter. Good sword. Yuan instantly took a liking to it after swinging it a few times in the air. The jade frog remained unmoving, its gaze seemingly filled with confusion as it stared at Xiaohua, who didn't even bother to return its gaze, as though it was nothing in her eyes. How did this insignificant-looking little girl escape unscathed after being crushed by its massive weight? It wondered. Yuan walked forward in a calm manner, his gaze deeply focused on the jade frog. Although he has never been in a fight before, he felt oddly calm at this moment, as though it was only natural. I have never been in a fight before, let alone use a sword. I have spent the majority of my life in a bed, silently rotting away. However, as powerless I may be outside of this world, I can use my limbs and eyes to the fullest in this world. As long as I am here, I feel as though I can achieve anything, even defeating this giant frog. Yuan suddenly dashed towards the jade frog, alerting it. His speed was faster than even the fastest man on Earth, and he arrived in front of Jade Frog in the blink of an eye. Witness. Remember. Learn. Execute. The fight between the two cultivators flashed inside his head, and his hands moved accordingly. Flash. The sword in his grasp had easily sliced the skin of the jade frog, causing blood to gush out from its stomach. The jade frog screamed from the pain, and it jumped back to avoid him. Xiaohua's eyes widened when she witnessed the movements of Yuan's sword. Although it was stiff and seemed like the swing of an amateur, it was clearly a sword technique. Yuan did not chase after the jade frog and only looked at the sword in his grasp, and on his face was dissatisfaction. Che, I moved exactly as that guy did, but something about it did not feel right. Brother Yuan, Xiaohua could only be shocked. What she just witnessed was the technique of one of the two cultivators she had killed. Did he learn it just from watching them fight for a brief moment? For someone to learn and execute a technique only after watching it once, and only for a few moments, Yuan could only be described as a prodigy. I executed the movements perfectly, and it had hit the target, but there was something missing. Yuan pondered. Perhaps. Chi. As though he had received enlightenment, Yuan smiled, and his gaze returned to the jade frog. This time, I will slay you, he exclaimed with confidence, his sword pointing at the trembling jade frog. The jade frog was confused. The human looked incredibly weak and vulnerable just moments ago, yet the moment he grabbed the sword, everything about him changed. His weak aura became sharp like the sword, and his gaze showed dominance, even a hint of arrogance. What had happened to him that caused this change? Even Xiaohua was also a bit baffled by his change. It was as if he had gone from a mortal who knew nothing about the world to a profound sword master. Even the aura he emitted has changed entirely. Yuan dashed towards the jade frog while it was dazed, and his hands maneuvered the sword in his hands with the same movements, but with more precision and speed. The sword in his hands suddenly glowed red. Bloody sword strike. Sha! The jade frog instinctively leaped back, but its movements were too slow when compared to Yuan's sword strike, and it split in half in midair, causing organs and blood to fly everywhere. You have learned Bloody Sword Strike. Bloody Sword Strike. Rank, Earth. Mastery Level 1. Description, consumes 900 chi. Must wield a sword to activate. A technique from the Blood Sect. Player Yuan has become the world's first player to have learned an Earth rank skill. Congratulations. Player Yuan has become the first player to have killed the elite boss, Jade Frog. 2 announcements appeared, back to back, for the world to see. After the Jade Frog died, Xiaohua ran up to Yuan and asked him, "Brother Yuan, where did you learn that technique?" The sharp aura around Yuan disappeared the moment he heard Xiaohua's voice. Oh, it was a skill used by that red-haired dude fighting in the sky," he said casually. Xiaohua silently looked at him with her eyes flickering with admiration. No wonder Brother Yuan comprehended the heaven's secret art in such a short time. She mumbled to herself. "Anyway, I feel like I have gotten stronger from that fight just now. It also felt great to use my body in such a way." Yuan laughed. "Perhaps I have a talent for fighting?" "Ha ha. Brother Yuan is a genius, no doubt." Xiaohua nodded with a serious face. "Stop it. You're embarrassing me with your flattering." Xiaohua is not flattering. Brother Yuan's ability to comprehend things is otherworldly. Such talents are rarely seen even in the higher heavens, let alone this lower heaven. Yuan shook his head. "I was able to beat that frog with ease only because of the powerful sword you gave me." "Thank you, Xiaohua." He patted her head. "Then when Brother Yuan becomes strong enough, Xiaohua will give Brother Yuan more powerful weapons," she said cheerfully. "You have equipment stronger than this sword? What are you, a walking weapon shop?" But Brother Yuan is too weak to wield any of them, so Xiaohua can only wait until he gets strong enough to wield them without exploding to death. Exploding to death. Yuan shivered upon hearing her cruel words. "Surely you must be joking." Unlike normal weapons without a grade, spirit grade and above weapons are called spiritual weapons that have the ability to gain their own consciousness. If one tries to wield a spiritual weapon stronger than their own strength, then the conscious in the weapon may try to kill that person depending on its personality. Xiaohua explained to him. "How dangerous. It's almost as if everything in this game will try to kill you if you are too weak." Yuan thought to himself. Weapons, monsters, even humans, it does not matter. If it is strong, then it will dominate the weak. That's why Brother Yuan has to become strong, so he will not be bullied by the strong. "I will be fine as long as I have you, Xiaohua." Yuan tried to praise her, but she only turned solemn. "Brother Yuan, Xiaohua is only strong in this lower heaven. In the higher heavens, Xiaohua is only an ant when compared to the real experts." She sighed. "Only an ant." Yuan cannot imagine how powerful the cultivators in the higher heavens are when Xiaohua is already strong enough to destroy an entire mountain. Xiaohua suddenly walked away and towards where the dead jade frog laid. "Where are you going?" Yuan followed her. "When monsters die, some of them will drop a monster core." Xiaohua shoved her entire arm into the jade frog's corpse without flinching and pulled out a small crystal a moment later. Monster cores are very important to cultivators because they can greatly assist them in cultivation with chi stored inside. "Here you go, Brother Yuan." She handed Yuan the monster core. "What about you? Don't you also need to grow stronger?" he asked. The amount of chi inside this monster core is too little to have any effect on Xiaohua, so Brother Yuan should use it. Yuan nodded, and he threw the monster core into his mouth without hesitation. "Tastes like candy," he thought. Brother Yuan." Xiaohua shouted loudly, looking baffled and scared at the same time when she saw Yuan throw the monster core directly into his mouth. What's wrong?" Yuan looked at her casually. "Monster cores are not meant to be swallowed like that," she said urgently. "Hurry up and spit it out." When Yuan saw her panicking face, he also panicked. What will happen to him now that he ate one? Cold sweat soaked Yuan's back, but there was nothing he could do because the monster core had melted in his mouth the moment it touched his tongue and have already entered his stomach. "I already swallowed it." Yuan spoke in a stiff tone. "I know it is already too late, but what happens if someone swallows a monster core?" Xiaohua dropped to her knees and said, "Monster cores contain the entire cultivation base of its retainer before death, so if someone tries to swallow so much chi in one go, they will explode to death." Exploding to death again. Yuan's jaw dropped from shock. There are too many things in this game that will cause him to explode to death. Suddenly, Heaven Refining Physique activated. 1,280,000 chi has been refined from the Jade Frog's monster core. You have absorbed enough chi for a breakthrough. You have reached 8th level Spirit Apprentice. All stats plus 450. "Brother Yuan, did you just have a breakthrough?" Xiaohua asked after a long silence, her voice filled with disbelief. "I did," he answered with a weird smile.